Yeah, let's see. I started down here in '69, so that was well after the rapid had formed and sort of re-aggregated. But I remember one change that pretty distinctly that happened in it at a high water that Ken Slight was responsible for. Ken Slight kind of enters into this picture in a lot of ways. He tried to keep Glen Canyon Dam from happening, and that would have solved a lot of problems down here if he'd have been successful. But when he couldn't do that, he was still adamant about saving Rainbow Bridge National Monument, which of course the Bureau of Reclamation had decided that they would save. They wouldn't let water back up into there. They'd do something. Either they'd keep the reservoir low, or they'd build a second dam downstream in, I guess, is it Rich Creek or what's it? Rich Canyon, and keep Lake Fowl from backing up into the monument and inundating Rainbow Bridge. And at the time, people were pretty afraid that if it did, the sandstone would soften up and the bridge might collapse, and it still might. There's no guarantee that it can't happen tomorrow. But anyway, Ken Slight, one of my heroes, and I'm sure a lot of other people's heroes, took it upon himself to sue the Bureau of Reclamation about that. And he forced them, a guy named Judge Ritter, decided in favor of Ken Slight and issued an order that the lake not back up under Rainbow Bridge. They hadn't built this dam yet, and actually they never even intended to. So the lake was getting up there by '73. So in the spring of '73, there was an order issued to not let water get up past a certain point in Bridge Canyon, and the Bureau was forced to open up the gates, not the spillway gates, but just the tubes I think they were running. And they were running up to about, I'm not exactly sure, I think it was under 40,000 cubic feet per second. And that came down the river, and it actually changed the rapid. And that was the first change that I saw from when I started in '69 until '73. I was running motors mostly. '73 was my first year with Martin's company, Grand Canyon Dories, and I'd worked for Hatch and Smith 2 years each before that. And we got down here in '73 and noticed that a hole that used to be down there was kind of about even with where the rocks you can see in the rock garden are now. There was the main big hole here that was right below Slate Creek, just about where there's a pretty good wave now, and a huge hole in high water now. There was what we'd call the big hole, and that you tried to miss to the right. But even if you missed that to the right and you didn't get clear right, you tried to go left to the rock garden, which was upstream, is in my recollection of where it is now mostly. To the left of the rock garden, there was a huge hole that could flip boats too, and did actually flip several boats, dories. So when I was thinking about running for dories, I was getting pretty excited about the possibility of that, because actually pre-1973, the dories mostly just ran down the tongue of the rapid, kept her straight, and there was a huge spine on that first hole. They'd get through that first hole. If they were right side up there, they'd had to make it through the second hole right side up. It flipped a lot of boats, as Martin was saying. That was a little bit before my time. I think it was my first dory trip. I tried that out because I was kind of really looking forward to it in an odd sort of way, never having run it there. Being too afraid to do it in a big rig and thinking, well, these wooden boats, you don't want to get close to the rocks, got to stay out where the water is. Ran down through there, and luckily by then, it was either in the spring or it could have been in the fall of '72. There was also a major flood came down, a little shorter duration. The Little Colorado came up to, I believe, about 15,000 CFS. I could be wrong on that one too. Major flood. I happened to be there then too on a little training trip in a sailway raft, and the flood was going pretty good as we went by the LC. Came up a little more,
810,
and almost washed us out of Grapevine. Not really, but came up to a good 35 or 36,000 CFS for several days. And on that trip, I came down the Selway and decided, what the heck, I'm only me. And Selway's only about, I don't know, 14 foot long, little teeny raft. And I'd figured out I could actually get it right side up myself. It was so light. So I had a flip line rigged under it, so I could get it right side up if I flipped, and I just went down the middle. And the first hole was horrendous, big hole, but I made it through that somehow right side up. And then I don't recall there being a second hole, and I just figured it was washed out. So it could have actually rolled the rock that made that second hole out of the way and sort of took care of that second hole. And it was, I believe, late October of 1972, or else that more extended. It was for a couple of weeks high water with the bureau let out because of Ken Slide. In the early spring, I think it was in March of 73, could have done the deed too. Okay. But at any rate, when the water went back down, it actually went really low then. After that, that hole wasn't there anymore. But the big hole was still there. There was a huge flat piece of tapetes, probably, I don't know, 20 feet wide, I'd say. That formed a huge lateral just outside of the hole that Brad was referring to as milled, stop, and eat. So that was where most of the action was, as I remember, in terms of getting through the rapid. There was two runs that we'd do in the dories. One was and they both liked high water, fairly high water to do. One was a run where we snuck in right through the rocks and were just picking your way down through, and we always did it empty, no passengers. And get to the right side of the milled, stop, and eat hole or lateral that it was, and then go around the right side of the island. That's what we like to do. And then around 77 or 78, when Brad came on with the dories, started developing the run where we'd come in still to the right, and we'd try and miss the big hole to the right, but actually kind of go left to the milled, stop, and eat lateral hole, and that's what we called the highway. And that was, if you did that, then you were pretty good shape. If you didn't catch either one of those, to pull left and go down the left side of the rapid. It was a wild, fun ride. So we started hauling people down there because it seemed like it was a little safer proposition and not quite as technical as trying to get to the far right side of the rapid, which was still there also.
And you wanted them to help you turn the boat right side up.
And you wanted, just in case, to have a little help out there.